What is up, players? It's Warboss Tay back up in this mug. Today we're going to be painting a face, and we're going to start with using Bugman's Glow. This is a great paint. It's a base color, which means that it's thicker. It's going to cover easier. That also means that you need to use a wet palette or some other way to thin it down so it's not being used straight out of the pot. Otherwise, it's going to get into all of the details and it's going to get a little too chunky. But when you thin it down on a wet palette, this paint is going to come on real smooth. It's going to go on really nice and have great coverage. So I'm going to be using these Space Marine Scouts from the Kill Team Scout Squad, link below in the description. And all of them have faces exposed, no helmets. So it's a great way to practice your face painting. Similar models would be like the Cadian Shock Troopers, where each of the 10 models has a face that you can practice on. Now, the main goals with painting the faces are to get the expressions correct. So I'm gonna make sure there's good coverage all the way up to the hairline. And then I'm gonna be going straight on with the Cadian flesh tone. If you're going with an entire squad, like I've got 10 of these guys going, so I've got a good amount of models to do a batch paint or assembly line painting. By the time I get back to this first guy, that Bugman's Glow is going to be pretty much dry. But because I'm just going to do every single step right here at the same time, I'm going to be doing a little bit of wet blending, which means that while the Bugman's Glow is still a little bit wet, I'm adding the Cadian flesh tone on and I'm mixing it together. And I'm trying to leave more of this pure Cadian flesh tone near the top of the model that I want it to be looking a little lighter. And I'm not going to do too much because I don't want to get all of the details gunked up. So I am going to step away for a second. You saw a little time jump there, just a couple of minutes, so that the paint can dry for this next step, which is the Cadian flesh tone. At this point, you want to make sure that the paint is dry before moving on. You don't want to do any kind of blending while the shade of the Cadian flesh tone is still drying. That's the worst thing you can do, because then all of your paint is going to get mixed up and it's going to look cloudy and the shade is going to be mixing with the layer paints. It's just not going to give you a good result. But if your base coat, your layer paint is dry already, then adding the Cadian flesh tone is going to give you lots of nice shadows. It's going to go into all of the recesses and the little areas where shadows would naturally occur, like in the jawline and in the eyes and at the hairline. So now I've let it dry for a little bit, and it kind of simulated the same amount of time it would take to add the Cadian flesh tone to every single one of the 10 Space Marine Scouts. And at this point, I'm going to be re-highlighting, focusing on all of the raised areas, and I'm going to be adding Rakarth flesh to the Cadian flesh tone. If you want to go a little bit lighter, you can use Wraithbone. I wouldn't go with a straight white or like a grayish white, because these other colors, Rakarth flesh, Wraithbone, Pallid Witch flesh, they have a bit of a bone color, like a beigeish bone color, which is going to lighten up your Cadian flesh tone just the right amount. It's not going to wash it out or look too chalky. You also want a very fine tipped brush for this point, because here's where also we're going to be looking at picking out the eyeballs, doing some fine detail work like that. So I'm focusing on the nose, the forehead, and the cheekbones. Don't want to get this highlighted color everywhere on the face, but just where the light would naturally hit it and create a little bit of definition. And I apologize for my camera. I think I need to get a new one. The focus isn't working as great as it used to, but you could kind of see where the general lines would go. And then as I pull the camera away, the camera focus is a little bit better. I don't know, maybe my settings on my iPhone isn't that great. Igor.
Yes, master.
We got to work on the focus on this camera, buddy.
Oh, right, master. Let me finish my cat sandwich, and I'll look it right up.
So now I'm going to take some black, and I've got my fine tip brush, and I'm going to be doing horizontal lines to indicate where his eyes are. Now, looking at this model, this was the point where I decided I'm not going to do painted in eyeballs. I'm going to just do like a very thin line to suggest a squintiness, that he's squinting. He's doing a Clint Eastwood squint. And if I tried to paint the white horizontal eyeball and then slash the pupils in, it would just look too buggy. There's not enough space. So unfortunately, these guys aren't the best examples to show you how I would paint eyeballs. It looks like most of these guys I'm going to be doing just the Clint Eastwood squint, but some of the guys like the Sergeant and one or two of the other soldiers in this scout squad have nice open faces where their brow isn't furrowed so much that I can get in there and do some good eyeball work. But thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video on how I paint Warhammer faces. This is a very simple step requiring only 3 colors: Bugman's Glow, Cadian Flesh Tone, and Raglan Flesh Shade. You could also use Kislev Flesh instead of Rakarth Flesh and Cadian Flesh Tone mixed up. It's the next natural step in the progression. But I just want to thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave me a comment before you go, and we will see you in the next one. Laters, players!